So today we are looking at these cameras. Now these cameras have been out for a little bit, and you guys know how much I love Insta360 gear, use it all the time. But today we're looking at their webcams. And these are probably two of the, I would say, best webcams that are on the market right now, for sure. And this is the Insta360 Link 2 and the Insta360 Link 2C. And really, specs-wise, between these two cameras, we're looking at pretty much identical. The big difference, of course, between these two is that this one, the Link 2C, would be a webcam that you and I would use that really just remains or needs to be stationary. You're really not going to have any kind of physical movement available. So let's say you're someone that is going to use this as a possibly a replacement for your webcam on your laptop because your laptop is older and it has a not very good webcam. This would be a fantastic option. But if you want to be able to take this a little bit further, and you'll see the actual Link 2 basically has an integrated like 3-axis gimbal in it. So because of that, of course, we're going to have that ability to have the camera kind of move around. It can move pretty much 360 degrees all the way around. So if you need this thing to be able to track you and kind of keep you centered in frame, be able to do all kinds of cool features that a gimbal would give you, for an extra little bit of change, maybe that's something that you're going to look at. So what we're going to do today, of course, is unbox the two of these, and then we're going to set this one up on my Mac Studio, and we're going to set the Link 2C up on my MacBook Pro. So first off, what comes in these boxes? So first we'll start with the Link 2C, and of course you'll see here the AI-powered 4K webcam. We have all kinds of extra things here, and we'll crack open this box. Now again, my idea would be that, or my thought process would be that pretty much what comes in the box is going to be physically identical. So I'm going to just open up, we'll open up this one, and then we'll do a quick look at what comes in the two. Here we go. We're going to have the actual webcam itself. Of course, this is going to have a physical button on the top. It tells you right there on the little plastic piece, the covering, that you'll be able to double tap this to do like things like zooms. Very nice. It's going to have on the back your USB-C connector. So this is going to be used, of course, to connect it to your laptop, to your computer. And we'll crack this open here. It's nice and small, which is nice. Yes, you guys can hopefully see that okay, right? Small. This one here, which is something a little different than the actual two, is that it has a privacy cover. So you'll see a privacy cover here that you can turn on and off. So if you decide, of course, that you want to make sure that the capturing feature or the camera feature of the webcam is disabled so that it can't see what you're doing, you nicely have that physical little button there to turn that off, close it down, whatever you want to say, Then, of course, we're going to have the little stand. So this is the stand that you and I would have that would be able to mount on top of your, let's say, your monitor, so that we could place it on our monitor. This, it says peel this off, which we're going to do because it tells us to. And we have one on the bottom, so make sure we get all this. Now, the other nice thing about this one is that you'll see it has a tripod mount. So this will enable us, of course, to be able to put this on a tripod. Because even for me, one of the things that I like to be able to do, especially if I were to be using this on, let's say, a full-size machine, is put this on a tripod so that I could put it off to the side. If I wanted to record myself, I could actually, let's say I was talking to somebody, I could have a small tripod and put the camera like kind of right where I want it, even if it was, let's say, in front of the screen, so that when I'm talking to the person, it looks like we're actually making eye contact instead of looking up constantly right where the camera normally would be. This allows me to put it on a tripod or whatever kind of stand you have. And of course, it has that standard kind of lip. So this would sit on the back, and then, or this would be the top. This would sit on your monitor, and of course, we'll show that when we set it up. But pretty traditional thing, but it is nice quality, heavy duty, which is good. And this, I believe, would sit on the top. So this part here would rest on your monitor, right? Rest on the front of your monitor. And then this, you actually see this is tippable, which is nice because, again, the 2C doesn't have the ability to have a gimbal so that it can tip downwards. You'll have a little spot that opens up. So basically you would take your camera, you could put it on there. It's magnetic, which it's nice and strong, of course. And then if this was on your monitor, you could actually have it so that this could tip And even if you wanted to face it directly down, you could. So that's kind of nice. By watching a few of the other reviews out there before I shot this, one of the things that a lot of people had actually thought would be a great thing on like a future version is that this side, for instance, would be magnetic as well, so that you could put this in a vertical orientation so that you could put this up. Now, I do believe that if you had this on a tripod, for instance, that you could bend over, then you could put it in a vertical, but it would be nice to be able to have that magnetic so that you could use the stand. And I completely agree with that. Anyways, that's kind of cool. Last but not least, inside here, you're going to get your USB-C. It's a USB-C to USB-C cable, nice and long. They do give you a USB-C to USB-A adapter so that if you need to put this into a computer that doesn't have actual USB-C on it, then you still can. And then last but not least, you're going to get your little package of manuals, right? All your little manually goodness. So we'll keep these out here because those will be super useful. I'm just going to slide that one over. And that's pretty much everything that comes in this here box. So let's just quickly look at the Link 2, which I would believe would have pretty much the exact same stuff in it. So let me just open this up. We'll be right back. All right, so yeah, pretty much the exact same things in here. This time, of course, we're going to have the Link 2, which is a little different in what it has. This one, instead of having this button being a touch sensor, it's actually down here on the base. So same kind of things. This will allow you to switch different modes of the camera. So we'll just take that off. It does have little connectors on the bottom. Now, because this one is a gimbal, there are some, and has a bigger feature, there are some extra things that this one definitely can do that the actual 2C can't. You do have your USB-C on the top, and of course, there's your little ability for this thing to move around. And I would say it's not completely maybe 360, but it's pretty close in its ability to move around. Anyways, we'll move that right there. Same idea, you're going to have your little base. Now, my guess is possibly that this base, it says recommended with a desktop. You have this. I would say it definitely looks the same. I'm not then 100% sure of what necessarily the little connectors are here on the bottom, because this just snaps on there, right? It snaps on. And what's nice about it, though, I have to say, holy moly, did you see that? Still strong. That's good. You know, it will let you connect it. Like, you can see it kind of float around here because it says you're not really lined up. It really does. Maybe that's just the magnetic stuff there, so that it snaps like pretty much perfectly straight on, right? You'll see that lined up almost perfect. So my guess is those are a little like straightening row so that it definitely sets itself up nice and straight, which is good, so that it has that ability to kind of know where center is. Same kind of cables again inside, and you have your manual. Very cool. Now, the one thing that you will need, of course, is to download their software. So if you do go to Insta360's website, you do have the ability to download the Link desktop software so that you can use it on your computer. Anyways, I'm going to connect these right now, and we will actually see how this works. All right, guys. So we have it set up. Very easy to set up. I actually have it mounted up here between my two displays so that it's really kind of quite centered, and without having to do anything. You download the software, you run the software, and at this point in time, it's good. You'll actually see, like right now, it's got the tracking, like it's turned on, and you will be able to come up here, for instance, inside your actual display here, and you'll see a little view adjustment. So if you wanted to, you could kind of click on this, right? It actually tells you a little instructions: drag the mouse to control the gimbal, scroll in and out, etc., right? So I can kind of, believe drag this, but I can use this as well to kind of you'll see it finally move back and forth a little bit, and I can kind of come back and forth here, which is pretty sweet. Make sure that I'm kind of nice and centered in there where I want. And at this point in time, now that tracking kind of sets that up, that's sweet, right? And because of that, like I can go like way over here. You'll see it zoom out. You guys can see the mess, right? Like that's excellent. And as I kind of come back in here, it locks me right into place. How? Yes, please. That is fantastic, right? So you have that ability to do this kind of stuff What also is cool is you can set up like a preset. So you can have multiple presets. So I could set this as a preset, which is there, which is awesome. And then I can be like, hey, I have stuff over here that I may want to talk to you. So I'm going to actually spin this all the way over. So let's say the other way, it's the other way, right? Spin this over on this side, right? And then be like, I want to be able to talk about this computer over here, right? So for whatever reason, so I could set this as a preset. So I could literally just kind of go back and forth between these, right? Switch over here, come back over here. So I want that view, right? So now it's got me. I could move between them, lock me up. So one view adjustment. Turn on reactions is popping up here, right? So I can see, yep, cool. Very nice. I moved that outside of my screen recording phase. My apologies. But yeah, it's nice to be able to actually move around if you kind of want to just kind of be able to set this, kind of just go back and forth. Now, I think in regards to this, we would want to maybe have like the face detection, because you'll see now when I popped over to it, it kind of just popped there and then came back, right? So you kind of just want to make sure possibly that you either turn your face tracking feature off. Anyways, very cool to be able to set this. You have your smart compositions if you want to be able to turn it on. So do you want just the head, half body, whole body? So I can click here. You'll see it zooms into my head. I want more of a half body. It comes back. Or I want my whole body. And of course, if I was back further, it would be able to detect that, right? So if I was back here and I clicked head, boom, right into the head. I want my full body. It kind of zooms all the way back. You can turn that on and off, right? Your tracking speed, enable auto tracking. So you can turn this on, of course. So that auto tracking is going to be set inside there. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's, and that's one of the nice features of the two is just, if you are doing something where, let's say, for instance, you are on Zoom calls a lot. A big part of your job or whatever is this, being able to kind of slide back and forth and not necessarily, you got to come over here, whatever it is, be able to do whatever. It's constantly in that follow mode, which is fantastic, right? It's really a nice feature. All right. Right now, too, you have that ability down here, and I have it set in 1080. So you might want to come in here and just refresh that and tell it, no, 4K. And, oh, now we're even cleaner. And with this, what I really find, which is super nice, is that um, I have this big light back here on me. And if you look at like here in my face, like it hasn't blown out or anything like that, right? It's keeping that in here, so which is awesome. And if I turn over this way where that light disappears, this doesn't like it really, I don't know, it just has a really good way that it deals with different lighting for sure. So that's super nice. Now, if you also go into your effects, for instance, again, you do have the ability to change all your or set different color presets. So if you wanted to come in here and play around with all this, so go into manual, you'll actually see you can change your ISO, your shutter, your curves, all kinds of stuff inside here. I'm going to set mine to auto because auto seems to work like a charm. It seems to work very good. You also have things like background blur, so you can kind of click your blur in here, right? So, yep, I get it. So I can do a bokeh. I could come in here and do all kinds of different backgrounds, which would be very cool. So under bokeh here, right? Natural bokeh effect, focusing on the main subject. You have a blur here, so you can see portrait. You'll see it takes a second. This would be for filters, right? Daylight. You'll see it change. Actually, I don't mind the daylight. It gives you a little bit of yellow. Vintage. You got your vintage 2, your neon. Again, it takes a little bit. You'll see it kind of stutter a little bit while it's changing that, right? And then the clear. I actually don't mind that neon look. Yeah, that's kind of gives you a dark and moody, which is kind of nice, right? So you'll hit this show here. You can come. It even has like a makeup. Makeup is not supported at 4K resolution. Oh, so just so you know, I'm curious now if we were to switch this back down to 1080. Yes, kind of coming to 1080. Again, we have our ability here. Let's see, makeup. Brush, fresh, rose. Anyways, you would have that ability to do that if you so chose, right? You can also add as different backgrounds. So if you were someone that wanted to have your own background here. You may have to allow some things, but you could choose a background to put in there, which also would be cool. And then last but not least, you have more. So you have your AI tracking. You have this whiteboard feature, which is also very cool. So I don't have a whiteboard, but let's say you had a whiteboard back here somewhere, you could actually set it up and mark the four corners of it so that when you kind of went over it, it would zoom in and kind of find that whiteboard so that that becomes the focus, right? Which is cool. You have vertical flip, horizontal flips. This is your audio mode. So if you wanted to focus on you, so it really gets rid of that background stuff, voice suppression, and then music balance. And music balance would probably be used probably the highest for someone that, you know, you want a little bit of voice suppression. So other voices around you and focus on you, but you also want to be able to get a little bit of that ambient sound in. That would be used for that. You have your portrait resolution and high frame rates, enable low resolution. I don't want any of these. And then you have your things like your smart adjustments, your vertical flips, your horizontal. Of course, these are going to, you know, switch these around if you so wanted to for some reason to spin that around so it looks different, right? You have smart adjustments. So I'm guessing that will go in and try to figure all that information out on its own, which would kind of be cool. So, you know what? This is awesome. I do think this would be something I would use here. You'll see this desk view. I haven't tried it. We're gonna try desk view right now. And if we click on that, click, it points itself down. And this, you'll see it. It's trying to do what's down here. Now, my recommendation for this, of course, you'll see that it's kind of catching here and it's not necessarily catching far enough. This is probably something that you would want on a tripod that maybe you had a little more forward. So if you had a tripod sitting in front up here, then you could get that so that when it looks down, you'd practice that in advance so that you could kind of come in here and switch, come back to AI tracking, right? It's going to switch back here, you know, back and forth. It's kind of cool how the camera just kind of spins itself down. I do like that. So if you're someone, again, maybe you're live streaming and you want to be able to show what you're doing on your keyboard, you could. You also have single tracking. So if it's just tracking yourself, so it'll kind of ignore everybody else that's around you and really make sure you're the focus. And then you have group tracking. So if maybe there was two of us here, then it would make sure that the group kind of stayed in the frame, which is awesome. Anyways, we're going to go over real quick and take a look at the other camera, the 2C, and see how that works. It should be quality-wise, would be very identical. Now, you can, of course, hear, you can start recording. So just so you guys can hear what the sound is. And I have some hard drives here that are putting out a fair bit of noise. So again, we are in the voice, I believe. Is it? Yeah, voice focus. So let's do a quick recording and see what this sounds like. So at this point in time, you are actually hearing the audio that's coming from the two, right? So you're getting it straight here. Normally there would be a pretty big hard drive here that's making a fair bit of sound. So it's constantly has its actually fans going, keep the drives cool. But you are hearing this with the actual voice focus, and hopefully it sounds pretty good. I would think this would be a good idea of what the actual sound would be like if you were, of course, in, let's say, a conversation. All right, let's go over to the 2C. All right, guys. So you see I have the 2C up here on my MacBook Pro. So same idea. We are going to open up that software. And again, the real big difference here between these two is just going to be the fact that the actual 2C doesn't have the gimbal. So image quality and all that should be the same. I have to allow a few things just to make sure the camera is allowed to actually turn on. Okay. Do you want us to be able to do this? Yep. Welcome. You get a little tutorial to be able to play around with it, etc., etc. Next, right? Auto framing. You guys should go through this slower. Make sure you have an understanding of what's going on. Finish. Excellent. Same kind of thing. We aren't going to have as many features, but you will see in here, for instance, a view adjustment. So it's nice. It's kind of a drag and drop, right? We'll hit God here, right? So you just kind of have that ability of, again, to kind of just zoom in, right? Just kind of boom, 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 right? Which is kind of cool. And then once you're zoomed in a bit, you do have the ability, again, to do some reframing, but you do it based on dragging around this inside there, right? So if you want less headroom, you want more headroom, very cool. Again, you do have that ability to set presets if you want to be able to go between a zoom and not a zoom, a little bit on the screen, a little bit off the screen, et cetera, right? You do have this head composure. You also have this desktop view. And again, because it doesn't come down in the way the screen is, this is what you're seeing, vertical correction, right? So you do have that ability to play around inside there. Right now it's just spinning it, but you'd want this kind of over here more so that it was down over. So if you had it on a tripod, I think if you're going to use the desktop view, it is something that you want to invest in a tripod. This is a little tripod. They sell a tripod for this as part of one of their bundles. So I would recommend that as well. Go back to our auto framing. Again, you have that ability to go into 4K, right? So to switch it to 4K, go back to our auto framing, and it set itself up. Excellent. We are going to zoom this back out. Sweet. And they have it. So instead of having the button on the actual base, they have it here. So that's like a green light on the other one. This one, you'll see if I double tap it, it zooms in. If I double tap again, it zooms out. So you do have some quick functionality in regards to that. If we move over here, we have some effects. So again, we have that ability to background blur if you so want it, right? You can kind of come in here and play with these, which is cool. Your filters, your makeup, again, you want to make sure, again, with makeup mode and stuff like that, it's in 1080. And then last but not least, you have your auto framing, your whiteboard, your zoom, voice suppression, right? Music balance. So you have all your different ones, your ability to horizontal or vertical. And again, the privacy mode is a little bit different. In that one, the camera would flip down, whereas this one actually has that little toggle switch on the side. So you can physically turn the camera off or turn it back on. See how fast it actually exposes, It exposes so well. Like, it's got a fantastic exposure. It's so good. And even this one, like when you're zoomed in, like I'm zoomed in just a little bit, it still has that, that ability to do some auto tracking back and forth. Now, it wouldn't have the ability, of course, to go all the way around like the 2 can, but that's fantastic. If you're rocking on a monitor or like a laptop, that's really good. And, even with the new MacBooks that have these upgraded webcams on them, they don't shoot 4K. So that's excellent. All right, guys. I think if you're looking at a webcam and you really want a good webcam, maybe you are doing streaming, you want a camera that can sit in front of you at all times. You don't necessarily want to bring a big SLR with you or anything like that. Then these are going to be really nice cameras for that. Really, on this one, for instance, the big difference is if you want it to have that little bit smaller size, you want to save yourself a couple pennies, that would probably be a good route to go. But if you don't mind spending a little bit more, you get actually a fair bit of extra features that a lot of us would use. And if you are someone that actually does a lot of like video conferencing and you do a lot of Zoom and Teams and you are doing that a lot, that extra quality can really be beneficial, especially with having things like the desktop mode and things like the whiteboard mode and just being as good looking as you actually can. All right, I'm going to leave links down below to where you can pick these up. Of course, if you pick one through our links, it does help support the channel. I want to thank Insta360 for sending these to us, and I will see you guys next video. All right, guys, what webcam do you use, and do you think these are sweet? Because I do. All right, I'll see you guys next video. I'm out. Later. So just before I leave, I want to show you this, right? So the blur things weren't necessarily working properly, or at least I was like clicking on them. They didn't seem to be doing a whole lot. But see this little red button up here? There's a little red thing up there. If you click on that, it does actually, under your settings, there was almost like a warning that came up saying certain things needed to be enabled. You have to be able to give your computer some permissions to the software. So after I did that, as you guys can see here, now if I click on, for instance, bokeh, we get this little bokeh in the back, which you can change if you so want, right? Your intensity of that bokeh. So you can go in there and change your, right? If you want different kind of backgrounds with that kind of stuff, depending again. And of course you can add your own. And maybe this would be better with the blush. Oh yeah, see, like it's skin smoothing. See that? Right? Fresh. You can actually see some of them change versus none. See how coarse, I don't want to say coarse. My face is right here. But you could go in here and say berry, and it'll have different levels. Like it had blush. But it definitely does some skin smoothing, and you can play around with the level of it. Like, look how smooth my skin looks here. I'll take that off. Right? Oops. Wrong button. Allow. We'll kind of turn this to nothing. And yeah, see how smooth my face is versus normal? Crazy. Look at me, my eyes. Weird, right? Fresh. Nothing. Yeah, that's kind of cool. All right, guys. Now you can go.